also been planning for a long time to reinstate the draft. And they've got 2 different bills introduced consecutively for the last 5 years. And they're always saying, though, when you criticize it, it doesn't exist. Kind of like amnesty didn't exist, or the North American Union doesn't exist, or they weren't spying on you domestically, then they got caught and it was illegal, so they have Congress retroactively pass a law saying there's no Fourth Amendment. Then they lie and say it's just for overseas calls. You can read the bill. It's for domestic. No more Fourth. You know, that was even the headline on the Drudge Report in the AP. Just no more warrants. I mean, America is a changing country. And they try to put perfume on a pig. It's not working. But I wanted to play a few minutes. This is from my film. We got this from the Congressional Archives. This was back before C-SPAN. And this is in the mid-1980s. This is Oliver North being grilled. And Congressman Jack Brooks brings up the FEMA camps, because that came out in Rex 84, how they were going to either stage terror attacks or have illegal aliens riot. Ooh, boy, they don't change their tune, do they? And then bring in martial law, and how they were quietly trying to federalize things. Now, back then, they didn't have the muscle to do that. They've recruited 13,000-plus prominent preachers to tell their parishioners to turn their guns in when the government says, and to submit and go to the FEMA camps. See, this war on terror, and that even came out in the John Warner Defense Authorization Act. You go read the text. It says for any insurrection or rebellion or resistance to the government. All this anti-terror stuff is for you. Because if you throw a fit when they tell you the dollar's worth toilet paper, or not even toilet paper, I mean worthless, you won't be able to buy toilet paper with it. When they tell you they destroyed your country, they think you're going to throw a fit. Now they're going to send some special ops to gun you down in the streets. And they don't want you complaining about that before they pull it, okay? You're going into slavery. We're all going into it unless we speak up and get involved. And I went and interviewed police chiefs like Ali Philippus in San Antonio when Delta Force showed up with bags of cash trying to bribe him. And I interviewed Lieutenant Beck, the head of the Travis County SWAT team, when they came and visited him. A year before they visited him, I said, "You're going to get a visit." And he laughed at me. He was a Marine Corps sniper, Vietnam, Howlett decorated. He said, "That's illegal. There's no Delta Force, Alex, and they're not involved." And all of a sudden they showed me, called me in his office. He said, "It's all true. They were here. I can't tell you a lot of it. My God, here's their card. They wanted, oh my God." And then I talked to the head of emergency management in Kingsville, Thomas Sanchez, another Vietnam vet. They let him see PDD 25. They said, "We're going to be taking over and taking the guns. We need you to work with us." I mean, that's what these guys are doing. So, of course, I've been running around freaking out. I said they're going to use terror to bring in the police state. Why? I read Rand Corporation and FEMA documents, and a lot of this is public, and CFR documents. But do we have time to play this 1.5-minute clip before we go to break? We don't. Okay, let's go ahead and roll this. This is Congressman Jack Brooks. This is where they bring up martial law, and he's told a congressman's not allowed to talk about this. Here it is.
I don't know if in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster?
Mr. Chairman.
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir?
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution. And I was deeply concerned about it and wondered if that was the area in which he had worked. I believe that it was,
may I most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage.
Let me just tell the military and everybody else something. This is our republic. And if you think you're going to take it down, and if you think you're taking over, you got another thing coming. Real Americans will defend this republic 110%, and we know what's going on. Mama didn't raise no fool. We know who's behind the terror as well. We'll be right back. It is the 12th day of August, 2007. Now, we're going back into the mid-1980s. Oliver North's being grilled. The chairman of the House and Senate committee, they were both meeting together, tells Jack Brooks from Texas, the congressman, you can't see any of these plans. You can't talk about them publicly. If you want to, we'll make arrangements in executive session. That's because he wasn't on the high security committee. Now, 100 years ago, our congressmen could all see the material. They were in the government. They were elected by the people. It was separate. Then the executive, after World War II, started saying, well, we might let you, see, and grabbed power. And then now I have the AP. I have the Oregonian right here in front of me. And it says, DeFazio asked, but he's denied access. The congressman wanted to see government plans for after-terror attack, was told no, and he's on the Homeland Security Board committee. Since this happened and was in the press July 20th, now the whole committee's asked, and the committee chairman's asked, and been told no, because PDD 51 and the reissuance of Executive Order 20 by Bush says you're not in continuity of government. And that doesn't mean the executive. It's got some flowery language in there about that, how this is for the executive. But it also says the other branches, judicial, legislative. That's the courts and Congress, folks. And if you really read, even the Federalist Papers agree, but the Anti-Federalist Papers are certainly clear. Congress, because it has a greater separation of powers and has more members that represent the people, is really superior to the executive, and then judicial is beneath that. Executive, though, really since the Civil War has become preeminent, but that's illegitimate. I mean, they can argue, well, we've got new powers because Lincoln got them, but that's like saying courts once said that black people weren't human beings and were two-thirds human. I reject that argument, and I have the organic law of a free human being to say no to the tyrant together. And generally, the military builds up, and then the generals just start taking over. That usually happens when some political leader like Julius Caesar comes in and takes his troops into Rome, takes his troops into Italy, crosses the Rubicon in the north, brings them in out of Austria, brings them in out of Germania, brings them in out of Gaul, and just says, hey, man, I got the troops. Shut up. I'm taking over. It's for your security. And then you see the decline of Rome from that point on. And that's what's happening here. And they can have all these bought and paid for troops and JAG officers and propagandists come out and tell us, well, the president can order torture if he wants, but it's not torture because they say we've redefined torture because the president can redefine what that is. We can kill someone. Their heart can stop, and it's not torture. I mean, these are the memos. I have them here today. And again, patriotism, a lot of Romans got fooled. They saw Caesar with the troops. They said, well, that must be Rome. Okay, take over. And it all began. And just a few decades later, the senators were grabbing and killing each other and stealing each other's lands themselves. This system breaking down is not good even for the elite, which is why a lot of elites are now getting really upset about what's happening, because they're saying, hey, man, this is destabilizing. We don't need this. The people are already slaves. Why are you being so aggressive? And it's because, well, the elite says we want to fully have our way with them, which is what they always do. So the decline is happening, and my point about history is, in the majority of cases in history, the vast majority, liberty is this rare jewel that only came along one time in 6,000 years. The Founding Fathers said that. And miracles do not often cluster. And it happened here, and now it's being flushed down the toilet. One of my biggest pieces of evidence of thousands is Tommy Franks. I knew he was still on government payroll. Remember 3 years ago you heard about billions in fake news and billions in fake newscasts, and all this fake news had been bought, and fake radio and fake TV, and the reporters had been bought to go out and pitch different programs. And the media, the control press, did what it does best. It diverted. It lied by distraction. They focused in on Armstrong Williams, 240-something thousand a year, to go push a federal program and to act like he's for it. But it was thousands of reporters that were paid, and most of it for military domestically. Now, folks, when the Pentagon's domestically propagandizing and putting up fake blogs and buying fake newscasts and buying reporters, that's called high treason. It's not just a violation of posse comitatus. It's not just a violation of any basic canon of a free society. And Tommy Franks, man, I saw him on Fox, CNN, everywhere, going, it's real sad, but the people are going to want it, because he couldn't come out and say it was a good thing. He had to pitch it this way. It's real sad, but it's what's going to happen. I'm afraid we're going to set aside the Constitution for a military form of government after the next big attack. It's what the people want. And I went on there and I said, that guy is on payroll. Guess what? This is after he left Iraq after 6 months in 2003. And guess who was right? It later came out in mainstream news he was being paid $455,000 a year to go on television and call for martial law. Just unbelievable evil. No, they